in the bot lane.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm here with Ruler. Ruler, you guys were not very favored to win in this matchup because you were up against the Longzhu, the LCK champions who have been doing so well so far. Why do you think it was such a convincing win for Samsung today?
룰런스 우선 승리를 축하드리고요. 사실 많은 사람들은 LCK 1시드 팀인 롱주 팀이 이길 거라 예상했는데 많은 예상을 다 뒤엎고 승리를 거두셨습니다. 이렇게나 압도적인 경기력으로 이길 수 있었던 원동력이 무엇이라고 생각하시나요?
일단 다전제가 되게 첫 번째 승리가 되게 중요한데 이거를 저희가 어떻게 잡아서 좀 쉽게 간 것 같기도 하고 저희가 좀 더 한타 때 집중력이 좋아서 그랬던 것 같아요.
So I think winning the first game of the best of 5 series was the most important factor, and overall I just think our team had a better focus in the team fights.
Well, you had a fantastic match as well, and that up versus Prey. What do you think of your own performance today?
특히 오늘 이제 프레이 선수 상대로 매우 정말 뛰어난 경기를 보여주셨는데요. 룰런스는 오늘 본인 스스로 경기를 어떻게 평가하시나요?
솔직히 첫 번째 경기 때는 제가 너무 긴장을 해서 막 한타 때도 그렇고 좀 실수하는 모습을 많이 보여드렸는데 그래도 긴장이 풀리기도 하고 이제 감독님이 너가 원딜 더 잘한다 그러니까 그냥 열심히만 잘하기만 해라 해주셔가지고 좀 잘 풀렸던 것 같아요.
So for the first game, I was still nervous, and I think I made some small mistakes during the team fights. But after game 1, the head coach told me that you're a better ADC than Prey, so have confidence in yourself, and that made me more relaxed, and I think I was able to perform even better.
Well, you definitely showed something today, and now not time for the final yet. You still have a tough semifinal coming up against either Team WE or C9. Who do you think you're going to end up playing, and what do you think towards that semifinal?
이제 4강전이 남았는데요. 4강 대진으로는 WE 팀이나 C9 팀이 올라올 수 있는데 어떤 팀이 올라올 것 같고 어떤 팀이 올라오길 바라시는지 말씀해 주세요.
저는 개인적으로는 W 팀이 올라올 것 같긴 한데 그리고 제가 좀 미스틱님이 선수가 원딜을 되게 잘하시잖아요. 그래서 꼭 한번 붙어보고 싶었는데 전 W 팀이 그냥 올라와줬으면 좋겠어요. 올라왔으면.
So I think that WE has a higher chance to come to the semifinals. I think that Mystic is a fantastic ADC player, and I would like to play against him, and I'm really looking forward for that matchup.
Oh, fantastic. It will be a great matchup. Thank you very much, Ruler and Holman as well. What a victory by Samsung. Back over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Sharks. What a victory and what a performance out of Ruler. Again, he had a tough task going up against the bot lane of Prey and Gorilla, and as was mentioned, he's looking ahead towards perhaps Mystic, who he's calling out as being a very, very solid ADC. So for him, big performance on the day, definitely performing better than what you're calling the best ADC in the world.
Yes, but I want to...
Shame on you, Crumbs.
That wasn't a dig. That was just, that was the setup.
Look at you, what happened because
We
of
know
that.
you hate him. We know you
Okay.
Never mind that all of us call him
It's okay.
I want to highlight what he said, though, for this series, which was him thinking that the first game was the most important for the mental aspect of the game, and what the coach told him as well, that told him you're a better AD carrier than Prey. You're going to pull through. And that, to me, just shows that, hey, these games are so multifaceted that it's not the draft, it's not the execution, it's not how you communicate, but how you actually feel on the day and the trust you have with your teammates. And I think that the coaching staff really step up. If that's what I'm hearing now, I'm hopeful for Samsung in the next games.
And I think you make a really good point, because to put on a performance like this, it can never just be one thing, right? You can't just win draft. You can't just execute well with a poor draft either. It needs to be a full combination. And I think that's really what we saw from Samsung today. And honestly, I thought Ruler was being pretty humble, because I think he had an outstanding series and seriously outclassed Prey today.
But, Division, I want to return to that conversation now that we were having before the interview about the mid lane matchup in particular. All tournament long, we've been seeing the impact of things like the Galio and the Taliyah, along with Ashen, in affecting those side lanes, and in particular the bot lane. Well, hey, those two things get taken away from you. There are still more picks available now, as proven by Crown with the Lissandra achieving very much the same thing.
And that's the beautiful thing about these best of fives, where you had like a week to prepare, because you know a pick like Taliyah might come through, and you need an answer to it. And they come up with this Lissandra here, the first time we get to see this youth doing Worlds specifically, or doing the group stage and now the bracket stage. So I like that kind of preparation, and it shows you a step ahead of the enemy team. Because clearly, there was no Lissandra answer from Longzhu. They went cleanse Orianna. I'm like, I guess we just got to win mid lane really hard or we're done. Like, Taliyah will go sidelines. Lissandra can follow, and that was a really good answer.
And I think especially when you're already up 2-0, it makes sense to actually take a little bit of a risk like this, because even if this composition doesn't work out, you still have 2 more chances to actually go for it. So yes, there was ways that they could have lost this. Yes, they could have perhaps got outscaled if you go to super late game, with the Lissandra and the Shen and these sorts of things, but this was an execution-based comp. They were firing so well in the first 2 games, and I think it was really intelligent to take a stab like that.
This comp is actually very similar of the first game after Rift Rivals, where Samsung comes back and 2-0s SKT clean with the exact same composition, where they had Sejuani in the jungle, Tristana in the bottom lane. Back then it was support Braum, but they run Taric instead, and then you have your mid lane with Taliyah, and the top lane was kind of like a tank and a carry with Camille. But it just shows that they are so practiced with this composition that they knew it inside and out.
Now, we're going to get to talk to Cuvée in just a moment. Before we do, I want to take a look at this 4-0 fight out of Samsung Galaxy in the mid lane. They definitely had control of the team fight phase. This replay brought to you by Acer Predator.
Yeah, and I've got to say CoreJJ was so pivotal with the Taric ultimates. You know they can go aggressive with this. Ruler as well, positioning aggressively on the side. He knows that he has the support from his team, able to get so much damage out in this fight. And when he sees the opportunity to jump forward onto Prey, the game is over.
What I see here out of Samsung is immaculate communication. Nobody's going to a place where they shouldn't be. They understand, hey, one person's coming in, let's follow through, let's make sure the abilities get changed. Otherwise, that Taric Flash would have just gone haywire and not been followed through.
And I thought we saw so many good examples of that through the bot lane play, through Prey, knowing that they have, when they're going in on Prey, knowing that they have the Shen ult to back them up, knowing that they have the Taric ultimate to come down. They're positioning so aggressively, but it made sense within the context of their comp, within the context of what was there to back them up.
Yeah, again, also the Shen pick itself, instead of trying to beat Khan 1v1 specifically, why don't you just win bot side? Why don't you win mid lane? And you have Shen to support you every single time. And when you can trust your top laner to always be on point with the ultis whenever he's needed to do it, it doesn't matter Khan is in the top lane, because again, you just win the other sides.
Intelligent strategy with perfect execution is almost impossible to beat. Yeah, with that said, Shox is standing by for another interview, this time with Samsung Galaxy's top laner.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm here with Cuvée as well, who had an absolutely amazing series, and that over Khan. So first up, Cuvée, why do you think you were able to triumph over Khan so hard today?
큐베 선수 승리를 축하드리고요. 오늘 이제 상대 탑라인의 칸 선수 상대로 어떻게 그렇게 좋은 경기력으로 승리를 거둘 수 있었는지 말씀해 주세요.
아무래도 탑 같은 경우에는 상성이 좀 많이 크거든요. 그래서 제 생각에는 제이스만 없으면은 제가 상성적으로 2챔프라면 2챔프라고 그런 쪽에서 좀 많이 유리할 거라고 생각해서 이렇게 잘 된 것 같아요.
So at the top lane, I think the champion matchup is the most important factor, and I thought that as long as he banned Jace, then as long as he banned Jace, then whichever champion he picks, then I was confident that I can counter and play against him.
Okay, well, you had a great match, and so did the entire team. There were some question marks after group stage. What would you say changed in the week between we saw you last at group stage and this quarterfinal today?
삼성팀이 사실 조별 예선 때는 경기력이 최고조로 올라오진 않았는데 오늘 8강 때는 너무나 좋은 경기력으로 승리를 거두셨는데요. 조별 예선과 8강 사이 어떤 일로 어떻게 경기력을 끌어올리셨는지 궁금합니다.
아무래도 저희가 조별 예선 때 RNG한테만 졌었기 때문에 RNG가 우리하고 좀 다른 점이 분명히 있을 거라고 생각했어요. 그래서 그 부분을 찾다가 저희가 한타를 못하는 것 같다. 그냥 한타를 잘 해보자라고 해서 이렇게 잘 된 것 같아요.
So in group stage, we only lost twice to RNG. So we thought there's something that RNG has but we don't. And after analyzing, we thought that the reason was team fighting and that we just had a bad team fighting at that point. So we focused on improving our team fighting throughout the break, and yeah, the practice was pretty successful.
Yeah, and the team fights were on point today, so thank you very much. Congratulations, Cuvée. Back over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Shox. And while the entirety of Samsung stepped up to earn their spot in Shanghai, we'd like to recognize one player who was crucial in finding that series win. So player of the series is being awarded to Crown in the mid lane.
And one of the most important things when you play against Longstrew is controlling mid lane. Stop BDD from going to Khan's lane or going down to the bot lane and snowball prey. And Crown did that, especially in Game 2 and Game 3. His Taliyah was one of the best Taliyahs I've ever seen in a single game. And then the Lissandra counter pick he finds as well in the third game.
But it's also one of the most important things out of Samsung last year when they had that great run to finals. It was off the back of Crown being such an impressive mid laner with his Victor, just showing up now, the Taliyah, his pick, and innovating on top of that.
You've got to say, even with the Malzahar game, obviously went pretty poorly early on, but he was able to get back into the game thanks to some help from BDD. But all to his credit, he did very well in the team fights later. He was able to help him control around Baron. He was a very significant factor even in game number 1.
And I think his story during the summer split is so interesting because it was a really bad split from Crown side. Like, a lot of teams found success in camping him, killing him early, and Bastion would never help him. Samsung would just lose mid-control. The fact he's bouncing back now for Worlds is so important because he can be and he will be one of the best mid laners
in the world. Words out of my mouth in a sense because I was going to talk about this guy's journey throughout his career has had many ups and downs, and for him to have, you know, a setback in the summer split, but be returning to form at just the right time, you know, looking to eclipse their finals performance from last year.
Like, it was so bad during summer that they had to legitimately give up picks like Zach and Caitlyn to first pick his only viable mid laner, which was Orianna at the time. He had one champion that he was not chain feeding on like 4 weeks ago, and now, well, he just smothers BDD.
Only fitting then that we hear from the man himself, who's standing by with Sjokz to discuss his win.
Thank you very much, guys. And how could I not talk to Crown after that monster performance? Crown, your AD carry Ruler said that a lot changed for you guys after game 1. You realized you could take it. Could you tell me how you felt before the series and how that changed for you as the series went on and after that game 1?
이전 인터뷰에서 룰러 선수가 1경기 이후에 많은 팀원들이 긴장을 풀고 더욱 좋은 경기력을 보여줬다고 얘기하셨는데요. 크라운 선수는 이제 경기 시작 전이랑 경기 진행하면서 마음가짐이 어떻게 변했는지 말씀해 주세요.
저는 경기 시작 전부터 계속 그냥 시작 전이 아니라 며칠 전부터 그냥 준비하면서도 그냥 떨어지면 떨어지는 거고 올라가면 좋은 거고 약간 그런 식으로 마음을 비우고 해서 별로 긴장도 없었고 뭐 흥분도 별로 되지 않는 대신 이제 이기니까 엄청 기분은 좋은 것 같습니다. 네.
So before the match, even a couple days before, I thought that I shouldn't be too attached to the results, but just try to put my best into it. So I wasn't too nervous coming to the series, but definitely winning feels much better right now.
Well, when I talked to you at the group stage, you were very careful about thinking about a possible final or going further. But how would you say your confidence is now that you've beat BDD and beat the LCK champions that were rumored to maybe win the whole thing?
조별 예선 때 인터뷰에서 결승전 가고 더욱더 좋은 성적을 거두겠다 말씀하셨는데 이제는 실질적으로 LCK 1시드 팀 롱주 팀 꺾고 BDD 선수 꺾는 상황에서는 더욱더 자신감이 있을 것 같은데요. 지금 현 크라운 선수랑 삼성팀의 자신감이 어떨지 말씀해 주세요.
지금 저 개인적인 저의 뭐 자신감 이런 거는 딱히 없는 것 같아요. 그냥 어떤 상대를 만나도 내가 최선을 다 했으면은 뭐 저도 상관없고 이겨도 상관없어 약간 그런 마인드라서 그런 뭐 자신감 부분은 잘 모르겠어요. 그냥 그리고 뭐 저희 나머지 팀원들은 뭐 다 오늘 승리를 하기 전도 그렇고 하고 후도 굉장히 자신감이 오른 것 같습니다. 네.
So for me personally, I think my mindset is the same as group stage. That I just think regardless of who I play against and what the result is, I should just put my best into it. And for my teammates, I'm sure that their confidence is way higher compared to the group stage as we beat Hongzhu.
Okay, finally, maybe you're always very careful in talking, but are you at least a bit proud of what you showed today? Because you had a monster performance, Crown.
사실 크라운 선수는 항상 되게 겸손한 모습으로 많은 그런 인터뷰를 하셨는데요. 그래도 오늘은 롱주 팀을 꺾고 정말 좋은 경기를 보여주셨는데 본인 스스로에게 그래도 좀 좋은 평가를 내려도 되지 않을까요?
뭐 게임 전체적인 부분에서는 괜찮은 플레이를 좀 했다고 생각은 하는데 그래도 이제 뭐 1대1 상황이나 2대2 상황이나 이런 부분에선 실수가 많았기 때문에 뭐 좀 자신감 부분은 자신감? 네. 그런 부분은 좀 떨어지는 것 같아요. 네, 이런 부분 인터뷰에서는. 네.
So even though I might have played a somewhat good performance for this series, I still think that I made some mistakes during the 1v1 and 2v2 small fights. So since there's area of improvement, I still want to be a bit more humble during interviews.
All right, always humble, but always performing. Thank you very much, Crown. Congratulations, and back over to you guys.
Wants to be more humble, but definitely doesn't need to be more humble. I mean, he played like a monster today, deserved every moment of the spotlight that he's receiving right now.
And yet he's the kind of player who can always find 1 or 2 mistakes, being like, that could have been slightly better. I mean, he had such a great game, and he one of the main reasons they actually get this 3-0. He should be super proud.
Yeah, well, okay, 3-0 series. Let's also remember that this is how Samsung Galaxy started their run in the knockout stages just last year. 3-0 first series in the quarterfinals, 3-0 in the semifinals. Looking strong, looking only to get stronger.
To be fair, though, it was such an easier bracket last year.
It was C9.
Going up against Cloud9, and then it was the H2K semifinals who had beaten ANX. So people were like, it's just kind of a free path to finals for Samsung. The real finals was Rocks versus SKT. It's going to be easy, once you actually get to that grand final, but they pushed it to game 5. They almost took it that year. This year, coming in again, we've underestimated them, right? They didn't have the best group's performance. Against the heavy tournament favorite, they looked extremely dominant.
It's just hard to say if it's people underestimating them because we look at a tape, right? And we look at from summer split, we look at from the group stage, and we see a lot of issues. We see a lot of mistakes. And then obviously we have to kind of assume that Longzhou are going to be the better team in a BO5 like this. But then the 1 week you have, or the 3-4 days you have to prepare is where the best teams in the world can just really kick it into an extra gear and figure out a great draft and really execute on the day.
It's not just tape for Samsung, though. When you look at the results that they have amounted, regardless of their opponent, every single tournament has been improving for the last year and a half. And so now, since last year's was a second-place finish at Worlds, this kind of performance is a game-winning performance for the entire tournament. And if they keep this up, they're looking like favorites.
Final point here.
I would contest that a little bit if you're saying it's an improvement in LCK Summer from Worlds last year, right? Where they did get third. They're
I'm
not
comparing to results of last LCK Summer. LCK Summer to LCK Summer.
And this is the nuance, but let's push ourselves forward. Our first quarterfinal match is set in stone, so let's go ahead and pull up the bracket to see what else this weekend has in store. We return tomorrow with the reigning champions, SK Telecom T1, taking on Misfits from the EU LCS. Then RNG hope to be the first LPL team to earn a spot in the semifinals versus Fnatic, with Team WE squaring off against Cloud9 to close out the weekend. Now, before we go, as we're saying goodbye to Longzhou, they end their journey here at Worlds, I do want to talk about this team for a brief moment. Celebrate, 1, their achievements, but 2, talk about how they might reframe their mindset and look towards that 2018 season.
I want to draw parallels to the KOO Tigers. When this team came about and just smoked the LCK, was looking like the most dominant team in the world, and then they lost the IAM tournament. They got pegged back down to reality, and now I think that's what happened to this team. They'll go down, but they will eventually rebuild back up and give us new heights.
I think with Longzhou, the fact that they've now had a full summer split with this lineup, they now had a Worlds tournament as well where they get to play in a quarterfinal. It's a lot of valuable experience for Khan, for BDD, and for Cuz especially. Like, we could see the jungle mid synergy, or the jungle mid players weren't as ready as a crown and as an ambition in this series here. And these guys have obviously done it before on the side of Samsung. I think Longzhou, the experience is very valuable as long as they stay together.
And I think it's going to be so interesting to see if they keep their unique style, right? Is it still Khan as this carry style top laner, focused on him, or do they go back to the drawing board and try to start over?
Or do they broaden their playbook, right? There's so many answers. We'll have to wait till next year to find out. Now for myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for Worlds tonight, where Shox will be joined by Papa Smithy and Deficio to review that series and look towards the remaining quarterfinal matches. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow for more Worlds 2017. Good night.